What's up, YouTube? It's Reggie, and let's get into the word today. It says, And Paul, looking steadfast on the council, said, Brethren, I have lived before God in all good conscience until this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded them that stood by him to smite him on the mouth. Then said Paul unto him, God smite thee, thou wilt to the wall, and sittest thou to judge me according to the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law. And they that stood thereby, revealest thou God's high priest? And Paul said, I knew not, brethren, that he was high priest, for it is written, Thou shalt not speak evil of a ruler of thy people. And this is just Paul refusing to speak down on even the rulers of this world because God says not to. He's respecting their authority. They're mistreating him, and he's still letting them slide. I feel like that's a lot harder said than done, to not get mad or react when things are going bad for you. But in the Bible, it tells us that facing prosecution is like the greatest sign of love for God because you're willing to face prosecution for Him. And it tells us that you will be rewarded in heaven for that. So when you're going through trials and tribulations, you got to remember that there's beauty in the struggle and count it all joy because the steadfastness of your faith, like remaining steadfast in your faith through trials and tribulation, grows your faith. So you're growing in your faith when you go through these trials and tribulation and when you remain steadfast. And it says, But when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he cried out to the council, Brother, I am a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees. Touching the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am called in question. And when he said so, there arose a dissension between Pharisees and Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. For the Sadducees say there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. So they're disagreeing on their belief systems, which is causing them to argue about it. These are two different groups of people that they believe in God, but they don't believe in, one group doesn't believe in a resurrection, and one doesn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. So they're both wrong, but you know what I'm saying? They're people and they're arguing back and forth. And it says, And there arose a great clamor, and some of the scribes of the Pharisees' part stood up and strove, saying, We find no evil in this man. What if a spirit have spoken to him, or an angel? And when there arose a great dissension, the chief captain, fearing lest Paul should be torn in pieces by them, commanded the soldiers to go down, take him by force from among them, and bring him into the council. So it's like they're arguing so much that on what to do with Paul that they almost killed him because they're trying to fight and argue for who's right, who's in control. So it's a battle. I feel like a lot of this still goes on today as far as people conflicting beliefs, like politics. Like it divides so many people and makes them argue to the point where they act like their lives on the line with how they argue, and it's like, why? And it says, And the night following the Lord stood by him and said, Be of good cheer, for as thou hast testified concerning me at Jerusalem, so must thou bear witness also at Rome. And when it was day, the Jews band together and bound themselves under a curse, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. And they were more than 40 that made this conspiracy. So they literally said, Oh, I'm not going to eat or drink until Paul is dead. So they're trying to get him gone like ASAP. And it says, And they came to the chief priests and elders and said, We have bound ourselves under a great curse to taste nothing until we have killed Paul. Now therefore do ye with the council signify to the chief captain that he bring him down unto you as thou ye would judge of his case more exactly, and we before he comes near are ready to slay him. So they're trying to set a plot to kill Paul right now. But Paul's sister's son heard of their lying away, and came and entered into the castle and told Paul. And Paul called unto one of the centurions and said, Bring this young man to the chief captain, for he hath something to tell. So he took him and brought him to the chief captain and saith, Paul the prisoner called unto me, and asked me to bring this young man unto thee, who have something to say to thee. This is why you always need to speak up when you hear something that could affect someone else negatively. Because if this boy didn't tell Paul about these attacks that were potentially coming to him, y'all might think this is gossiping, but this is warning Paul so he can save his life. Because without this warning, without him knowing about what was going to happen and telling the centurion, he was probably about to get gone. So it says, so he took him and brought him to the chief. Oh, no, I already read that. And it says, and the chief captain took him by hand and going aside, asked him privately, what is that thou hast to tell me? And he said, the Jews have agreed to ask thee to bring now Paul tomorrow unto the council, as thou wouldest inquire somewhat more exactly concerning him. Do now therefore yield unto them, for there lie in wait for him more than 40 men who have bound themselves under a curse, neither to eat nor drink, so they have slain him. Now they are ready, looking for the promise from thee. So the chief captain let the young man go, charging him, tell no man that thou hast signified these things to me. So the chief captain takes hold of all this like information, but doesn't want it to be revealed because he has the plan, I'm assuming. And it says, and he called unto him 2 of the centurions and said, make 200 soldiers go as far as Assyria, and horsemen 60, and spearmen 200 at the 3rd hour of the night. And he bade them with beasts. He bade them provide beasts that they might set Paul thereon and bring him safe unto the Felix the governor. And he wrote a letter after this form: Claudius Lycia, unto the most excellent governor, greeting. This man was seized by the Jews and was about to be slain of them. When I came unto them, the soldiers and the rescued, having learned that he was a Roman. So he's writing a letter to move Paul to Felix to get him away from the people that want to kill him. And it says, and desiring to know the cause wherefore they accused him, I brought him down onto their council, whom I found to be accused about questions of their law, but to have nothing laid to his charge worthy of death or of bounds. And when it was shown to me that there would be a plot against the man, I sent forth to thee forthwith, charging his accusers also to speak against him before thee. So the soldiers, as it was commanded to them, took Paul and besought him by night to Antipas. And on the morrow they left the horsemen to go with him and returned to the council. And they, when they had came to Caesarea, delivered a letter to the governor, presented Paul's also before him. And when he had read it, he asked of what the province he was. And when he understood he was of Cilicia, I will hear thee, and said he, when thy accuser also are come. And he commanded to him to be kept in Herod's palace. So right now, this man has received a letter, accepted Paul, and decided to move him to Herod's palace. So that's where we're laying off. You gotta tune in to the next episode tomorrow to get the rest of the story or read it on your own. You choose whether you want to see God or you want to wait for me to read this chapter and, like I said, get the word. But you need to seek Jesus on your own because you need to build your own personal relationship with Jesus. Seek him today and you will find him. I love you, but Jesus loves you more. God bless you.